In a small-town bar, a group of rowdy bikers decide to target a lone black man in army fatigues, mocking him and blocking his way. They think he's just another stranger passing through. What they don't know is that he's a decorated soldier with a past that demands respect. And what happens next will turn the entire bar silent. It was a Friday night in a dusty roadside bar, just outside Miller's Creek. The air smelled of beer, fried food, and cigarette smoke. Laughter and loud country music filled the space, mixing with the clink of pool balls and the occasional bark of a jukebox. At the far end of the room, a black man in his early 30s walked in, wearing his army fatigues. His posture was upright, his steps measured, and his expression calm. He had just returned from a long deployment overseas and was looking for nothing more than a quiet drink before heading home. But peace wasn't what he found. A group of leather-clad bikers sat at a round table near the center of the bar. Their vests were decorated with patches, and their laughter was loud enough to draw glances from across the room. One of them, a tall man with a snake tattoo curling up his neck, noticed the soldier. "Hey, look at this," the tattooed biker said, smirking. "G.I. Joe decided to grace us with his presence." The other bikers chuckled. The soldier ignored them, making his way to the bar counter. He ordered a glass of water. "Water," another biker scoffed. "What kind of soldier doesn't drink?" The soldier didn't respond. Years of discipline had taught him the value of silence. But the bikers weren't done. One stood up, blocking the soldier's view of the bartender. "You think you're better than us, wearing that uniform?" The biker sneered. The soldier turned his head, slightly. "I think we should both enjoy our night without trouble," he said evenly. The room grew quieter. A few patrons exchanged glances. It was clear tension was building, but the soldier's calm demeanor only seemed to provoke the bikers more. They didn't know it yet, but the man they were pushing was no ordinary soldier, and before the night was over, they'd understand exactly why you don't pick the wrong fight. The biker blocking the soldier's view leaned in closer, the stench of alcohol heavy on his breath. "Come on, tough guy. Let's see what that uniform's worth without a rifle in your hand." The soldier stayed still, his eyes steady but unreadable. Around them, the chatter in the bar faded, replaced by a low buzz of anticipation. People knew these bikers, known troublemakers who enjoyed picking fights, especially with outsiders. Another biker stood up, a thick man with a leather vest stretched over his broad frame. "Maybe we should teach him some respect," he said, cracking his knuckles. The soldier finally took a slow sip of his water, then set the glass down gently. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "I'm not here to disrespect anyone. I just came for a drink." The snake-tattooed biker smirked. "Wrong bar, soldier boy." With that, he shoved the soldier's shoulder, hard. The glass tipped over, water spilling across the counter. The bartender froze mid-motion, unsure whether to step in or stay out of it. The soldier took a slow breath. "Last chance," he said quietly. Laughter erupted from the bikers. One of them mimicked a salute. "Yes, sir. Last chance." Then the shove came again, harder this time. Chairs scraped the floor as a few patrons backed away, sensing what was about to happen. In one smooth motion, the soldier rose from his stool. His movements were deliberate, precise, like every inch of his body was under perfect control. The bikers didn't notice his stance shift, feet planted, shoulders loose, eyes locked. "I tried to be respectful," the soldier said, his voice still low. "Now, I'll be clear, you need to step aside." But the bikers weren't listening. One reached for his arm. That was the moment everything changed. If you were in the soldier's position, would you walk away quietly or stand your ground? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know what you'd do. The biker's hand clamped down on the soldier's arm, but before he could tighten his grip, the soldier moved. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't wild. It was controlled, lightning fast, and precise. With a quick twist, he broke the biker's hold, pivoted, and used the man's own momentum to guide him into the bar counter. The impact rattled glasses and drew gasps from the onlookers. The snake-tattooed biker lunged, throwing a clumsy punch. The soldier sidestepped, catching the biker's wrist mid-swing, and redirected him into a chair that collapsed under the weight. In less than 5 seconds, 2 of the toughest-looking men in the room were on the floor, groaning. The soldier hadn't thrown a single unnecessary strike, only what was needed to stop them. The other bikers froze. One muttered, "What the hell?" under his breath. The soldier straightened his uniform, then looked each of them in the eye. His tone was steady, without a hint of boastfulness. "I've spent years protecting people. I don't even know. I've seen enough fighting to last a lifetime. But I will defend myself, and I will not be disrespected." A silence fell over the bar. Even the jukebox seemed quieter. The soldier picked up his empty glass, handed it back to the bartender, and said, "Another water, please." The bartender, a wiry man in his 50s, nodded quickly and filled the glass. "On the house," he said, his voice almost reverent. One of the down bikers struggled to his feet, rubbing his shoulder. For a moment, it looked like he might try again, but the snake-tattooed man raised a hand, signaling for him to stop. The soldier sipped his water, calm as ever, and leaned against the counter. "Now," he said, "I suggest we all enjoy our evening." No one argued. The soldier thought that would be the end of it, but then a voice came from the corner booth. "Hold up," the voice said. It was deeper, calmer, and carried more authority than the others. The crowd parted slightly, revealing a man who was clearly older than the rest of the bikers. His leather vest was covered in faded patches, and his beard was streaked with gray. He stood slowly, eyes locked on the soldier. "You Army?" he asked. The soldier nodded once. "Yes, sir." "What unit?" 173rd Airborne. The soldier replied. The older man's eyes softened almost imperceptibly. "I was with the 101st Vietnam." There was a pause, long enough for the tension to shift from hostility to curiosity. The older biker stepped closer, ignoring the wary glances from his crew. "You handled yourself well," he said. "Didn't swing unless you had to. That's rare." The soldier didn't respond, letting the man's words hang in the air. The older biker turned to his men. "You idiots don't even know who you're messing with. This man's probably seen more hell than you can imagine." A few of the bikers looked down at their boots, suddenly less eager to prove themselves. The snake-tattooed biker muttered something under his breath, but stayed quiet. The older man faced the soldier again. "Name's Frank. I lead this chapter, and I'll say it here, in front of everyone, you have my respect." The soldier inclined his head slightly. "Respect goes both ways." Frank cracked a faint smile. "Fair enough." He turned back to his crew. "Drinks for the soldier." And no one bothers him again. The bartender exhaled in relief. A few patrons clapped quietly, not wanting to draw too much attention. For the first time that night, the soldier's expression eased just a little. It wasn't a victory over the bikers he cared about. It was earning the acknowledgement of someone who understood the weight of the uniform. The bartender slid a fresh glass of water toward the soldier, along with a bottle of cold beer. "Frank's treat," he said. The soldier gave a polite nod, taking the water, but leaving the beer untouched. "Appreciate it," he said quietly. Frank pulled up a chair, sitting across from him. "You passing through or sticking around?" "Just passing through," the soldier replied. "Heading home after a long deployment." Frank leaned back, studying him. "Home's different after you've been gone a while. People change. You change." The soldier met his gaze. "Yeah, I've learned you don't waste time on petty fights. Life's too short." Frank smirked. "Shame my boys had to learn that the hard way tonight." The soldier glanced toward the bikers, who were now keeping their distance, muttering among themselves. Maybe they'll think twice before starting something next time. The tension in the bar had shifted completely. The earlier hostility was replaced by a quiet, respectful atmosphere. A few patrons even raised their glasses in the soldier's direction. Frank stood, extending his hand. "Safe travels, soldier, and thank you for your service." The soldier rose and shook his hand firmly. "And thank you for yours." Without another word, he turned and walked toward the door. The jukebox hummed softly in the background, the muted conversations resuming as he passed. When he stepped outside, the cool night air hit his face. The neon sign of the bar glowed behind him, casting a faint red light on the gravel parking lot. He adjusted his cap, scanning the quiet road ahead. Behind him, the door opened. It was Frank. "One more thing," he called out. "If you ever roll through here again, first round's on me." The soldier gave a small nod before disappearing into the night, leaving behind a bar full of people who would remember that evening for years, not because of the fight, but because of the man who chose respect over revenge. Before we continue, subscribe to the Rise Against Odds and hit the bell icon, so you never miss powerful stories that prove courage comes in all forms.